brief report of our third meeting. Well, we had three organizations there. We had TAS talking about socialism. We had Prometheus, two comrades from Prometheus, and me from the CPGB. What we did is we carried on with our last meeting, and the last meeting began basically with a report back in terms of what do our membership, what do our leading committees think about this progress. I was able to say CPGB fully behind it, PCC's fully behind it, Last Aggregate fully behind it. Comrades from TAS were able to say, well, our leadership is fully behind it. We've just had our version of an aggregate where we've had our circle of supporters and friends. They were in general very enthusiastic about it. And then we had the report from Prometheus. We had, as I said, two comrades. This is though with one of the comrades from TAS wearing two hats. So Comrade Ed is both a member of TAS, but also a member of the editorial board of Prometheus. We had him there, and we had Comrade Cat. Either way, we had a report from Prometheus, and they are going at a slower pace than the other two organizations. The other two organizations are fully on board. At some point in our journey, we will formally accept the idea that a founding conference will bind us as individuals to the outcome of any vote, right? That's an important principle. Prometheus has issued a statement saying that they are for the talks, but in terms of the individuals on the editorial board, they are all at different levels and at different speeds. And so we have, I don't think it's unfair to say that the two comrades at the meeting on Saturday, that's Kat and Ed, the advance guard. They are going fastest. They are up for it. They are our best fighters for it. On the other hand, if we look at the rest of the comrades in Prometheus, you've got a range of opinions which go from, well, yeah, really good, to, I don't know whether you want to call it hostility or skepticism. I don't want to characterize it, but yes, there is a very backward element. And one of the concerns that was raised in terms of the report back, which is very important, was the idea that, look, some of us in Prometheus are also involved in RS21. And we've reported, you know, the positive progress that the comrades have made in terms of breaking RS21 from social imperialism, positive progress in committing RS21 to a quote unquote communist horizon. That concern was expressed that if the process of communist fusion was continued, would that work come to an end? And certainly when it came to my contribution, and other comrades agreed with me, I said, look, I cannot speak for the future organization, can only speak for myself, but I can speak in terms of the history we in the CPGB have had. The last thing we would want is the comrades ceasing their intervention, ceasing their involvement with RS21. We would be encourage them to continue with that struggle, but with the proviso that we would privately issue a warning: don't count on the toleration of the right wing in RS21 that might well at the moment be full of, oh, isn't it nice to talk about ideas? They might easily take a hostile view. But what we agreed to do is right from fusing communist unity as a group to the editorial board, saying that we would be requesting a meeting with the editorial board, with myself and Nick Rack. And we agreed that we're writing to the comrades, and we will meet them either on Zoom or, much better, face-to-face in London would be the obvious place, but doesn't have to be, but in London for a day's meeting. So not just an hour, let's get to know the comrades, let's hear the doubts, let's find the extreme skeptics, or maybe those that are actually hostile to the idea of a fusion, because let's remember that fusion also goes hand in hand with splits. It isn't just about all getting together, it's about differentiating. So if we think back to the formation of the CPGB in 1920, it involved splits in Pankhurst's organization, including with Pankhurst. It involved a split with the Socialist Labour Party. And indeed, the Communist Unity Group came out of that organization. So it seems to me to be very positive. I'm very encouraged. We agreed that the next meeting in 2 weeks' time, which will be on a Sunday, will involve someone else as well as myself from the PCC. This is something I put forward. Comrades said, yeah, that's a good idea. Because what we're now doing is we're going from the preliminary stage to actually discussing, saw it published in the Weekly Worker in my last article, the agenda put forward by TASS. We will be dealing with point 1 of that discussion. We also, and comrades will be interested in this one, we also discussed why Marx, and I explained the problems that we'd initially had with the agenda that was sent out to the comrades rejected at the second meeting. Since then, we've had a third, and I think I could be wrong, a fourth draft. Either way, the long and the short of it has been, is myself and comrades on the PCC have had a role in shaping the agenda of this series of Why Marx. At the moment, my understanding is, well, my understanding at the moment is, but because the comrades in TASS saw my article and said, look, the PCC is clearly not happy with this series. We weren't, I wasn't. We're going to steer clear of it. Now, they haven't made up their mind about the new draft, but they do note that we are, from the PCC, participating. We'll support that. Either way, the spirit is positive. I'm very optimistic about it. And I'm also optimistic, as are the other comrades, that this is actually having a genuine impact on the wider left. This is being noted, in terms of the organized left, but also not just the sects of 1 and 2, but those comrades that have had the hope kicked out of them by bad experience in one of the sects. So things are positive. It doesn't mean that we're putting all our eggs in that basket, but at the moment, things, in terms of the third meeting were highly positive, and it, to me at least, looks very positive in terms of the meeting in a couple of weeks' time for our fourth meeting. So with that optimistic note, Bob, I hand over to you. RS21, you're no doubt right, Joseph, and you're well right to warn us about the trans question. And you've seen the I think it's 6 topics that we're starting with. We don't have the trans question there. I think we might have it in terms of comrades in Prometheus. We'll certainly have it in terms of RS21. I wouldn't split with anybody on the question, but I do remember when we did have the comrade from RS21 there, this is the official RS21 at our first meeting, she raised, because Nick Rack raised the question of Ukraine, and I said, well, we should have a program, and we shouldn't start now saying who will be in and who will be out. We have a program that sets limits. But she said, for me, the trans question is an absolute. And so, yes, your remarks are well made. To me, it's not an absolute question. And indeed, you know, we fought for people, I think correctly on the left, to be able to have freedom of speech on this question. Doesn't mean that we don't have a stance as we do. We in our draft program, we're against discrimination. And to me, that is something that is fundamental. So to those in Prometheus who are holding back this process, that, hey, take responsibility for the future. Take yourself seriously, or yourselves seriously. You know, what we could do with communist fusion isn't to transform the landscape, but we could make a real difference. This isn't about the CPGB recruiting a few dozen people. This is about communist fusion. It's about where the left could go and around what sort of program the left could be united around. Not a broad front, but a party that can aspire to bring the working class to state power throughout Europe. That's the sort of ambition we've got.